Hello and welcome. I'm Sam Califer, your host for Vision, the show where we talk all about the College of Arts and Sciences as well as faculty and students. Today I'm joined by Dr. Mike Aaron, an assistant teaching professor in the Department of Biological Sciences. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on and have you here at Mississippi State too.
Yes.
You're a new faculty member.
Yep.
And you're already doing big things. I understand you were involved in getting some Anatomage tables for the Department of Biological Sciences. So what is an Anatomage table?
Well, the Anatomage tables were already sort of in the process of being purchased when I was hired. I was asked about them when I interviewed back in the spring, and I had a little bit of experience with them. Dr. Dahl, our department chair, Dean Travis, and the members of the provost office had already gone through a lot of the work to sort of get the tables lined up, the space, the financing, and so forth. And so I had the easy job to kind of make sure they were in the right place and that we were using them. Essentially, the Anatomage tables are virtual cadaver tables. They are very computer-based, but the cadavers that are actually a part of the table or the tables are humans. They're real cadavers, people who have donated their bodies to science. And they've CT scanned the body at just about every level you could imagine. And through the work of a lot of computerization and so forth, they've been able to put those bodies with their structures and parts and so forth intact into the tables.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's really an amazing visual and hands-on opportunity, I think, for our students.
Yeah, and so important that they can see the bodies, right? And so instead of having to buy real cadavers, it's these very high resolution print, they're scanned bodies, and it's a learning device that y'all can use. So important, very cool to get the technology in there, give those students the hands-on tools that they need. Could you talk a little bit more about all the functionality, and how do you think that will help with the accessibility for students?
Well, in terms of function, it certainly first and foremost, I think, fits the curriculum. We have a lot of pre-med, pre-healthcare students, and it does give them an opportunity to actually see the body in its normal state. We get a chance to look at the structures of the body itself. We can actually pull a lot of those structures out and look at their functioning. There's a physiology component where we can do things like monitor heart rate, compare that to heart rate of someone who's running or exercising or what have you. So the technology gives us an ability not only to just see the body, but to actually get a hands-on kind of opportunity to look at how the body works, which is a big part of our lab curriculum. Lab's more than just seeing things. It's actually kind of understanding what you've talked about in your lecture classes. Beyond that, something that I think a lot of people were surprised about with these tables, you can take the table and go beyond just the human body. There are a number of opportunities, a number of modules that are general biology based, chemistry based, where we can go in and do things like look at maybe a dissection of a rat or something that's a biology opportunity, and that itself I think gives us a really great, wonderful chance to get our students a hands-on visual of what structures should look like, and not just the human, but in other organisms as well. Definitely.
Yeah, it's such a good step between seeing it in a textbook and then it's like the real thing and they're like in med school, so it's a good in between. They're seeing the body, it is like as real as it can get. It's not like a diagram. And yeah, to be able to see that and deal with like the anxiety and the stress of that in the classroom before it's, you're like being tested or you're in med school, I think that's like invaluable. So
it really is, and they're obviously 3D. You can twist and turn and move, and you can magnify, you can back out. The opportunities to really get the visual on the structures, the parts that you're looking at it's beyond anything I've ever seen. And I think maybe in some ways, it's I will say at least as good, but maybe in some ways even better than actually having a cadaver.
Yeah, you're right.
Because of the things you can do.
Manipulate
Yes.
it and zoom in, and yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right.
That is so interesting. So yeah, they was already in the process of getting the tables here, but now you get the fun job of you're the instructor over the Anatomage tables. So what are your plans to incorporate them into instruction?
Well, we did a little bit this semester. We received them sort of mid-semester, which was not perfect, but we were able to sort of stay with our plan from the beginning of the semester in terms of some of the other things we were doing. But the TAs worked very hard to make sure that we actually got our students on the tables. We did a lot of identification work, a little bit of physiology work with the cadavers. Going forward, the plan is for the spring to actually use the tables for 2 different classes,
Okay.
sort of a freshman level anatomy physiology class, and then a more upper level, 3,000 level anatomy class.
Right.
And we'll be developing labs for that. We've already started a little bit of that. Just we'll actually do the bulk of our labs on the table where we're looking at systems and structures and organs. And one of the really nice things about the table is you can build quizzes and exams and those kind of things.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, we can quiz the students on them. We can put in a test bank of questions.
Right.
And each student will get a different question or set of questions. And all of the questions come directly from the different structures that we look at.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're going. That's really will be in, I think, full speed ahead.
Yeah.
Starting in the spring.
Such a well-developed learning tool. I mean, the fact that there's different modules and that you can make the quizzes. And something that I think about is, like, I did dissect a frog in anatomy class, but all of the time that got wasted not on that, but you know, like making sure the students were doing things the proper way. I feel like it just cuts out all of that and you can get right into the learning.
It really does. And, you know, the students that we have now are very IT based. You know, they really know far more than I do, certainly, about devices and apps and so forth. And with the first group that came in, our TAs described it as a big app.
Yeah,
And
right.
I think that had the students hooked. But yes, they can spend all the time they want finding structures, seeing those kind of things.
Yeah.
And you mentioned med schools. I know I attended an online session regarding use of the Anatomage, and I know there are a couple of medical schools nationally that are using it. Not to replace the cadavers, but as kind of a supplement to the cadavers.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, we're really right there on the cutting edge using the tables for our classes.
Yeah. Accessible not just because of the technology, but like the amount of time you could go see it. The tables are always there in the room.
Yes.
Yeah. So so cool. And you've mentioned that students have seen the tables. So
Yes.
y'all had the opening. Where are the tables again?
They're over in one of our biology labs, kind of across campus. It's one of the hidden rooms back off of the
Engineering row.
engineering area.
Yeah, right. So you can go find it. It's off of engineering row.
yeah.
But yeah, what have the students said already about them?
The students that I've talked to have loved them. I actually carried an upper level physiology class that I'm teaching. I carried them over. Those students really were excited. I had to run them out. That's the kind of enjoyment they had. And it was really interesting because it was like each group of students had something they wanted to look at, and some of them were all excited about actually getting to see just the cadavers and the structures. Some of them wanted to really jump into their case studies with illness and things like that, and some of them wanted to really get into those, and just a number of different areas. And it was, I looked as the students were doing their work at each table, and it was like each one had a different module up they were working on.
They're just exploring the thing that they're interested in.
So
do some of the bodies have certain illnesses like that?
there are a couple of sort of unique situations. One of them had a form of lymphatic cancer. You can actually see the tumors. There are some case studies with different issues, some joint-related issues,
Interesting.
organ-related issues, and
Yeah.
you know, we're still they're new, so we're still really learning them ourselves.
Right.
But yeah, there are some things like that you know, I think are very interesting, and certainly we're teaching a lot of pre-med, pre-healthcare students,
Yeah.
and so
I think that's so important. I mean, they can see what the body is supposed to look like, and then see how it goes wrong.
Right.
You know, and so imagine they're a doctor now. You know, they're having to do the diagnosis, and it's exactly what they've seen before. I just feel like the feeling you would get from that, you know, it would be so anxiety inducing to be a doctor or anything like that, and so these kind of tools takes the anxiety off a little bit.
right,
I
right.
think.
And you mentioned, you know, it's so different when you see just a drawing on a paper.
Right.
But this gives them that really unique visual of a body in 3D, and that they can move and look at in ways that they probably never have thought of before.
Right. Yeah. So helpful. I mean, so useful. And so, what do you think are the long-term benefits? Like, yeah, they're going off to grad school. How will these students be different because they got to use this device?
I think it really gives them the chance to experience something in terms of a visual lab that maybe they wouldn't get somewhere else.
Right.
They get a chance not only to see the body in its form and its structure, but they can also take that body and look at the various parts and see the functioning of the body. They can go to the most micro level and see the structure
Right.
of that body. And I'm not sure you can really do that without cadavers or deep dissection work or something like our Anatomage tables.
Yeah, just the depth of that real world experience. I think that is so hard to reach. And I know the tables were expensive, but they were actually cheaper than continuously buying the cadaver bodies.
Yes, and when you do the cadavers, that brings into play, you know, a lot of health and safety.
Right.
And there are a lot of other factors with that
Yeah.
we don't so much have to worry about here.
So it's such a good way to cut through all of that and just get the tools that the students need to them and improve their education. So interesting to hear about it. Thank you for coming to talk to me about it.
You bet. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Nice talking to you. And thank you all for joining me for this episode of Vision. We'll see you next time.